What's up, guys? It is that Panda Guy. I'm here again with another video, and I know I've kind of milked the situation quite a bit, right? Like I've covered the overall event a lot, right? Like I've definitely done a lot of coverage on it, and I mean this might be over milking it, but I did see a lot of just people talking on Discord, and I thought I'd do another video, especially considering that we have the new island event, and it is like a new kind of updated one. I mean the updates aren't massive, but they are still kind of prevalent. So we're gonna be kind of looking through the Discord server. We're gonna be looking through the new islands server, and we're also gonna be looking through the island raid one because I mean they're kind of complaints in both of them. So we're gonna be kind of covering this and just talking about everything. So I do think like a majority of people find this event less interesting, and honestly I don't hate the event. Although I don't like it either, like I definitely find there's a lot of stuff that I am very dissatisfied about, and I will say one of the biggest things is I think it's just the lack of fighting. Like even now with the changes to when checkpoints open, you're very unlikely because I think you can look through most zones, right? Most of the islands, and usually people all go clockwise or counterclockwise. And one reason that this is so prevalent is because a lot of the groups, like a lot of these groups, know that they're not going to be, they don't want to fight someone they're going to be in a faction with, right? Like they aren't willing to fight someone they're going to be in a faction with to lose potentially 30. Sorry, like it's like 30 to 35% of their troops, right? Like you're not willing to lose 30 to 35% of your troops in the first phase, and then you get your troops returned, and you potentially team up with your ally, or sorry, you become allies with your enemies, and sometimes you become enemies with your allies, right? And that sometimes depends on how the island goes. Like even if you do all your due diligence and you make sure that you're kind of going one way on the map with your ally and stuff, if like let's say a team gets locked in their zone, right? Sometimes that team is gonna mess up the whole allies thing, and it's going to sometimes randomly pair it with potentially your ally that you were kind of setting up to be with. So in some of these cases, it's just really weird, and I think you have to be really like it's so stupid. Like I really hate factions. That's like my biggest thing about this event. But we're going to be talking about some of the stuff here, and we're going to cover a lot in this event. So the first thing is, yeah, the reward and faction forming system in this mode are actually stupid. 100% agree. Like I think one thing that people had a big issue with were the pity rewards. And when I say pity rewards, that means if you're on the losing side, right? And I do like, I don't honestly have an issue with this personally. Like it's not the biggest deal to me, but I do think that it is concerning when let's say you are setting up to form a faction, right? And you're trying to plan form a faction for your next round. Well, if you plan to do that with a team, you know what you have to do? You have to give up one of the level 7s, and you have to potentially just like never go on that side of the map until the next phase, because if you go for that level 7, you're going to end up being in a different faction with that other team. And the issue with this is you need one of those level 7s if you want to be able to get all that nano rewards, all those nano rewards and stuff within the I forget what menu it is, but it's on the arch map, right? And you have to be able to get one of the level 7s to get all the nano rewards and all that. And it's really a big downside because it's like, well, if I want to be able to go into this faction, I'm forced to decide, like one of the teams has to take the shaft on the rank rewards, right? Like it says here, one team is gonna have to be like, all right, we're willing to miss out on the rewards. And like I said, I don't care to a huge extent, but the fact that you have to like decide who gets screwed over if you want to be allies is really stupid to me. You know what I mean? That in itself. Another thing I also had seen was talk about like leadership and how much more responsibility they have, and I 100% agree about this, right? Because I know that leadership in general was already hard enough in normal island raid format, like doing all the diplomacy and stuff. But now with this new format, let's say you get 4 alliances, right? And there are cases where you get 5, 6, 7 alliances in the Legion. Not only do you have to cooperate with all these other alliances, not only do you have to make sure all these alliances are like fine to work together, because sometimes you're gonna have people who are enemies with each other. You have to be able to like communicate everything. Like if you want to form an ally with like Azure, for example, right? You have to make sure every alliance in your legion is in agreement with that. If one alliance has an issue with Azure or an alliance in that legion, that could screw over the whole thing. All it takes is one rogue player, one rogue alliance, and everything can get screwed over because they don't want to listen. They want to go on their own and screw everything over, right? I've actually seen, or I haven't seen, but I've heard from people about their alliances being sabotaged by alliances in their legion, right? And that is a massive L. Like that is so stupid, and I find it to just be Very annoying, man. Like it's very freaking annoying, and I'm just like it's like so frustrating. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things that just makes me so annoyed and ticked off. And I actually think that this might be one of the biggest flaws to the map, or sorry, the island. I actually like the whole Legion layout, right? I think it's actually an interesting layout, but if they don't put like safety measures in place, it's not going to work out. It's not going to be the best thing ever. And, you're going to have a lot of alliances that might end up just, doing their own thing, might screw over people, or just in general, for example. Let's look at G1. You know what? I'm just going to make a random scenario. So let's say Boone and H&B are fighting each other in G1, right? Let's say Boone and H&B are both equally the same size. Let's say they have the same whale power, all that kind of stuff, right? So in general, maybe a fight between them would be kind of normal and kind of be evened out. But if both of them are forced to have maybe alliances in their legion, let's say two each, and let's say H&B gets two alliances that are very uncooperative or just very non-fighter alliances, but they're still kind of big. Like they don't really like joining rallies, they don't like filling rallies, they don't like running rallies, and besides the fact, imagine they don't have anybody who's capable besides their H&B players to run rallies, right? But you have people who are in Boone's alliances, right? They have maybe some insane mega whales who are able to run rallies, meaning that they can run double rallies, triple rallies just fine. And they have a lot of people who are able to fill towers and stuff. Well, then the advantage is just massively tipped in their favor. I will say in general, I actually like the matchmaking way more than Island. And I'm going to kind of scroll down because I think I saw something down here. Um, Am I missing it? Okay, so right here, I kind of read this. Sorry, I just wanted to read this a little bit. I read this right here, and I totally disagreed. So, I agree, but I disagree. It says, I agree, the new event isn't fun. If your Legion doesn't have a T6 player, you ended up losing. The matchmaking is not fair. To call this matchmaking not fair, and then also, like, because I don't know if this guy wants Island Raid back, but to say matchmaking isn't fair, but you want, like, most people want Island Raid back, right? That's kind of stupid to me because I think the matchmaking in Island is way worse, right? Like I think you're more likely to end up fighting alliances that have T6 when you only have like T5 or even T4 in some cases, which I've seen. And I definitely think the matchmaking is better here because you're more likely to get like a T6 player in your legion who's able to even the odds, not just being able to be garrison captain, rally captain, all that kind of stuff. As long as that player or players are very active and able to do their roles, I think it's much more balanced out compared to Island, where in a lot of cases you just see alliances fold because they're like, well, I can't really do anything because there's only a bunch of mega whales here. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like this is a weird one, right? But I mean, in the case that you don't have a T6 player and you're fighting alliances or legions with T6 players, you probably will lose. The same kind of can be said about even if you have T6 players, but one legion has like a mega whale with like maxed out parts, insane armaments, and then you have all the other legions with T6 players, but they aren't jacked to like, they aren't jacked to the freaking end of the world. So, da, 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 da. I don't know if okay, so we all know that conflict with some alliances before. We have conflict with some alliances before, mainly in Island Raid, Dark Seal. Our Legion became allies in Phase, but we also fought so badly in Phase 1. Is there anything we can do about that? I don't really understand I feel like the wording is kind of weird, but guessing, I'm going to interpret what I can from this. I'm guessing like he's saying something along the lines of, well, what if you're like, maybe you have enemies or something and you're forced to be put into the same legion or even like same faction, or you're forced to, fight your own allies or people that you kind of formed a lot of relationships over, like Dark Seals and Island Raids, you know what I mean? And then there's also the thing where it says we fought so badly in Phase 1. I'm guessing it's saying like we fought really hard and then maybe we ended up on the same faction. I mean, if that's the case, yeah, that's kind of stupid because I feel like this event is really dumb because it kind of forces you to play really passive for almost the full duration of Island, right? Like you have to be really passive about this because if you're not, you're going to end up potentially killing off your own allies troops that you're going to be fighting with in the last 2 days, and it's like, what is the point of that in the end of the day? You know what I mean? I'm going to be wasting all my troops, killing off their troops when we're basically going to end up on the same team in a couple of days, right? And I think that one of the bad things I've also noted is, an Island Raid, right? You would maybe have people put up, for example, HMB put up nearly 30 billion points in that last island that we fought. But in an island like this, the format and stuff, it's nearly impossible to be able to put up that many numbers, because the thing is, for the first few days, and I think I've seen this like at least both times so far with ROK, DHX, both times, as well as HMB and Boone. They're placed in gold and the Jade Legions, right, which are directly across the map from each other. So the most of the fights they can do are long march fights where they're kind of marching across the map to do these brawls over, let's say, a level 7 or a level 8, and those are really the only fights they have that are kind of able to like you're not even able to refresh very fast there. Whereas if like you go up mid, for example, sorry, I'm like losing my words. But for example, if you build up mid and all that, everybody gets close, you're able to kind of brawl it out. And I mean, in the last day or two, you will be able to kind of brawl to your heart's extent. But the thing is, I feel like a more stretched out island where you're kind of struggling over towers more usually has more action compared to one that you're only able to fight for like the last day or two. And I feel like you can't really get all your, I feel like it's kind of hard to squeeze everything out in the last day or two, all fighting up mid in that 1 or 2 days sometimes. I mean, of course, in a lot of cases, they will end in those 2 days, but like even then, you know what I mean, like it's kind of hard to just just end all the fighting, like or get all your fighting out for some players, especially like mega whales, right? Like it's much harder to put up the same points you might have been able to put up an island raid in this new event, because there's just a lot less time to be fighting and it ends way faster, and it starts way later. The griefing thing, I kind of mentioned that, people destroying towers. This is kind of stupid. Like I think like that's one big issue about having alliances working together and forcing them to work together. Like I also said, I think having to work together with another legion really sucks as well, compared to like Island Raid, where you're able to just have maybe one alliance, right? You have like one alliance, you have one leader and stuff who's able to just work together with one other alliance or two other alliances. But now you have maybe four plus alliances in a lot of cases, who have to kind of agree together on things, and then they have to go to this other legion, and then the other legion also has to agree like completely together and all that. And not only that, I kind of mentioned something earlier about having maybe one rogue alliance or something who wants to screw everything over. That's the issue. What if you are in that legion and stuff, and you have that one team that really just doesn't, maybe everybody hates them, maybe they've backstabbed a ton of people, maybe they're just a really toxic group, etc. Well, you're screwing your own legion over because you were forced to play with these guys, right? Like, what can you do about that? And it's kind of stupid, because no matter how much you try to be a good leader, no matter how much you try to control what your players say, or everything that, just in general, like no matter how good of a leader you are, no matter how much you kind of make sure everybody's respectful in your alliance, you can't like particularly control these other alliances, what they do, what they say, and especially you can't control their history. Like you can be the most trustworthy group ever, but if you end up on the team of a bunch of backstabbers who do it every time, what's that going to matter if like you can't control those guys and everybody knows they're probably going to screw people over? Just in general, I find it to be kind of stupid, and like the circumstances around that, I don't really know how they could fix that. Like some people had maybe said the point of just making this an alliance event where you have alliances in the corners of the map instead of like legions of alliances. And I can understand where that's coming from. You know what I mean? I do like this overall format, but I can see where there's a lot of faults at. So I do think like it might be necessary. I mean, unless you're making this a region event where you're putting regions together in one group, like that's the only other circumstance. But I don't know, man. It's kind of hard. Um, I don't really agree with this. I think if you're given a team, it's your responsibility to work together or fail. Because what if a team just doesn't want to work together? Right? Like that's a part of group matchmaking games. Like I just don't agree with this, right? Like because some groups are just impossible to work together. Some just don't want to work together, and some people just have, like he said here, a big ego and stuff. Like even if like you can't blame one group for another group's actions, right? Like you can't blame me for another group being uncooperative. Like I can be as cooperative as I want to be, I can be as lenient as I want to be, but that's not going to matter if these guys are just like, nope, I don't really care, I don't really get your stance. This dude says this event's a disaster. It makes the game not fun. Bring back Island Raid. Legion should be 2 alliances, at most 3. I'm currently in a 5 alliance legion, and it's flat out exhausting to be in an alliance. In a legion. Negotiations with five of these guys, and then all the R4s want to, and then yeah. Then you have to bring in all the 4 R4s. So you might have like 30 plus people in a chat, and it's like, man, like this is a full mini alliance basically. I think that's one of the biggest issues, like cooperating with each other. It's just really hard, and it's tiresome. Uh, gonna keep scrolling. This guy's been like super on the on the like side of the new event, and I honestly like his takes, right? Like I think a lot of his takes are good. He's not like completely saying, "Oh, this event is the best thing that's ever happened." Like he's saying the event in general is good, and I agree. But he's saying that he has like a lot of faults with the event that he doesn't like. Like I can definitely stand behind a lot of this dude's takes. Here's an example I'm dealing with. Our alliance is one of the newer regions in the event, so naturally our tech is not advanced as older regions. So I suggested that our lower durability towers be built first in safer areas, and then save the more durable towers in war areas. Naturally, this requires a lot of seedment, but every time we go to harvest scavs and the seedment, the other alliances take it. This is an issue I find a lot, and this can also be kind of put into like the whole like working together with another legion thing. No matter how good of a leader you are, I feel like there's always going to be that player who maybe, let's say, node knocks your ally, and then you have to reprimand that guy. But when you're dealing with multiple alliances, this will happen a lot more frequently until maybe like a day or two into the event. A lot more people are understanding, like, oh, okay, this is our ally. And it's really hard to understand who your ally is because you have so many alliance tags that you have to remember in a lot of cases. I'm in G10 right now, right? And I have to memorize like 5 alliance tags. I have to memorize 5 alliance tags. That's a pain. Like, who wants to memorize 5 alliance tags walking on the field, right? Like, whereas in Island Raid, it was much easier because it was just one like alliance that you would regularly see, 1 or 2 alliances, and you knew who they were. You knew where they were, what towers they were coming from, etc. And now it's like people are able to march all over the map, and they do it a lot. So you'll see like, let's say, a rider march running around, and then you have to maybe zoom over to the legion, right? And then you have to see, oh, this is in this legion, so I'm free to hit it or I'm not free to hit it. I just find like it'd be kind of annoying, and like all the alliances, like I just think it's a little bit too much sometimes. Gonna keep scrolling down. Flaws in the matchmaking system. I agree. Like, it definitely frustrates people, but I think that no matter what the devs do, there's always gonna be flaws in the matchmaking system. That's my honest opinion. I've never seen a game with like perfect matchmaking. Like, it's nearly impossible to do that, especially for every single bracket. Like, it's almost impossible to do that, especially when you have variable players, right? Like, you can be a 4 billion alliance. You can be 4 billion alliances all across the board, but let's say you have a maxed out gear player there. Well, it's kind of hard to just put them with another 10 billion alliance who has maxed out gear players, right? But then if you put them with 4 billion alliance who also doesn't have maxed out gears players, like a lot more average size players, well, you're screwing over those guys, you know what I mean? So it's kind of hard to like make perfect matchmaking, especially like I said, for every single bracket, like you would need a 1-for-1 on every player. And then some players are gonna like still complain because, oh well, our alliance is full of farmers. Well, how's that the devs' fault? You know what I mean? Like, I just think that I feel like there's always gonna be complaints over something like this. So when I hear matchmaking complaints, I kind of take it like, I don't take it at face value. You know what I mean? Okay, I'm gonna keep going down. Sorry, I need to catch my breath too. Okay, well, uh, sorry, I know it's like a lot of silence here. One thing I really hate is the fact that you have to be very particular though about where you build on the map. Like, you have to be very particular, like super, super weird about how you build, and you still might get paired against like an ally that you might have formed throughout the whole event, right? You still might get paired against them if the like, let's say you box in a legion on one or the other side of the map and they don't get captures on anything, they might end up pairing with your ally. Like, I hate how that format is, man. Like, I hate how that is, and I hate that there are even factions in general. Like, right now I'm in an island, right? And the people we're fighting, like, the only reason me so I would consider Jade and Azure and my island right now to be the strongest groups, but we're working together, and it's not even because we don't want to fight. Like, I would actually rather fight Azure, but we had like allies in there from the last time, as well as the fact that we just had similar distaste for one of the alliances and one of the legions, so we were more inclined to work together due to our kind of shared problems with them and stuff. So now we don't have as good of a fight because of this, and also, like I said, that one legion is suffering because like that one alliance wanted to be toxic. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of stupid, and this kind of gets on my nerves, man. It really gets on my nerves, dude. I hate this so much. I really hate the factioning. Like even legions in general can be kind of fixed up a bit, but I don't think the legioning is terrible. But I do get the whole thing of, what if I am paired with someone like an alliance that I don't like, or just paired with a like uncooperative alliance in general, or just a group that doesn't fight. Uh, okay. Well, here we go. We got casual here. I think this dude's very upset about it, and I get his pain, right? So he was like pretty mad about like Island Raid being removed, and the thing is, I think a lot of people are feeling this where there's just not a lot of action. A lot of more people are hesitant to fight because they don't want to fight people who they're potentially going to end up allying with, and this is the thing I really hate about factions. Like I would love for the devs to just remove this whole faction feature in general. Just please get rid of it. Just let us fight out to our heart's content. You know what I mean? Just that or I don't know, man. Like this is so annoying. Like maybe bring back the whole whoever has more capture points places higher. So if I capture two level sixes and a level seven, I might place second or third. You know what I mean? Instead of whatever. Like I just find this to be kind of annoying. He said, yeah, he loves to fight and all that. So, for some jump with 1 million kills, you're telling me I ain't doing enough after adding 30 million kills to my total. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I just find this to be kind of a stupid event. Like, not even the event itself. I like the event. I just think, like, there's a lot that could be tweaked to kind of fix a lot of the issues here. Hmm. See, and I hate this take right here. Like, this guy's calling leaders greedy for not wanting to work with other alliances. Maybe you want a good fight, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like having a good fight is a good thing. Like, I don't think you need to make a agreement with these teams. And I think the biggest issue with being is that you're forced to make agreements or deals with these other teams, right? Like, don't blame your leadership all completely on that. Like, I think it's really a big game flaw. Like, I wouldn't say people are greedy for simply this. I mean, I think the 3v1 is still reasonable, right? Like if you get 3v1, that just happens, you know what I mean? That's just going to happen. But calling it greed is kind of stupid to me. Like I don't get the whole greed thing. Like I definitely think I think you should be able to just 3v1 without having an issue instead of being forced into a 2v2 at the end. Because why would, like, I feel like most people would be hesitant to even 3v1 a Legion in the first place because it's like, well, one of us is going to end up allying with them in the second phase, you know what I mean? So not everybody's going to want to pound on this team usually. Well, I'm going to go to the Island Raid one. I think I kind of looked through everything. One thing I actually saw here with that I actually really agreed with was something he said here. So I don't know where it's at. I don't know where he said this. Okay, this is something I really agree with. So he said most people speaking out prefer Island Raid. That's because more people are more likely to speak when they're unhappy with something. It's not it's not an indicator of the consensus, and I definitely agree. Although I still think that most people preferred Island Raid, but he is right about that, right? Like I feel like there's more people, and even I'm guilty of it, right? Like I'm less likely to go to the devs and be like, oh my gosh, I love your new event, thank you so much. Instead, when I hate an event, I'm more likely to hop on Discord and be like, yeah, I hate this event, please change it. You know what I mean? Because if you don't have any changes that you want implemented, you're probably not going to be hopping on Discord. You know what I mean? Like I definitely think the whole, oh, everybody up here hates the event, therefore that means everybody in the game hates the event, is a bad take. You know what I mean? I definitely think that's a bad take. I think I think the arguments here are pretty valid. But he was, he's. I feel like these two have definitely been kind of. I feel like Skynet's also been defending it a bit, but he was basically saying like Island Raid is not like any better, and I do agree to an extent. But then again, I think there's just more fighting in Island Raid, and I think the issue is like I've mentioned it so much, but it's these factions. It forces you to play like wussies, right? Like you don't want to fight, and I don't want to fight a team that I'm probably gonna end up being in a faction with. It's just a waste of troops, especially when I get like a ton of those troops back in the second phase, just to lose even more troops, right? Like I don't know, man. It's like I don't even think need to keep explaining it. And right here, yeah, fatigue is the issue. Um, I think the biggest issue is that it's just so slow, right? Like, right, we've been sitting for days on checkpoints, just waiting, like waiting for mid to open up because that's when you're gonna fight. Like, nobody wants to go into a war event to walk 20 minutes and node knock, or maybe walk 20 minutes and go camp out like a ruins or something, or camp out a level 6 tower or something to maybe entice a fight, right? Like you don't want to do that. You don't want to have to walk all the way across the map to fight like that, And I think the whole random porting thing used to be pretty fun with Island Raid. You'd be able to kind of play a little bit more crazy and go out there and just be able to like walk a minute away from your base, fight people, and have your marches keep refreshing, like near their like helipad or something. Just in general, that was way more enticing. But now it's like you're marching all the way across the map to take these fights, and then you're waiting throughout the whole event to finally see what the factions are, so you can be like, all right, now I can lose my troops because I feel like this makes sense now. Like it definitely makes more sense for me to lose my troops, and I'm not like just using them stupidly. Um, thing is thing is like I think that even leadership can agree the event's not totally bad. Like not all like you don't have to be an R4 and R5 to be like, oh, this event sucks, right? Like I think like the average player's opinions still count, even if like you're an R4 and R5. I mean, obviously your opinion counts, especially in your respective areas, but it doesn't kind of like invalidate people's opinions to being like non R4s and R5s. And he kind of rebutted that here. Says I'm an R5. I prefer this new event, even if it means being only responsible among the three potato lines of Legion. Oh, okay. Uh, I definitely agree with Casual here. Island Raid is an event where you're an R5 and you're controlled to a certain extent of who you ally with. It's a pleasure to sit up and wait to see who you match and then begin the discussions of what we'll do. It's part of the enjoyment. And I agree here. Like I said earlier, I think leadership is a big issue. That there's just so much to do, and there's so many alliances who have to agree on the same exact matters. And it's not like your word matters. It's like 10 people's words matter. You know what I mean? Like you have all these people who kind of have to have a say in things before you can move forward with decisions. So yeah, and like you said, you build a lot of good friendships and all that, and then like a lot of the time you're kind of guaranteed to face them, especially since the fact that you're fighting a lot more alliances instead of Island Raid where it's like 8 alliances. You can have 20 plus alliances on a map at once. You know what I mean? So like it's more likely to end up facing one of your friends, and all that, and like you're less likely to just kind of be able to ally with them. Whereas like in Island Raid, there was a much. I feel like it's easier to ally with them instead of deciding for your whole legion, right? Like if you have a friend, you can't decide for your whole legion, right? Like if they have other friends as well, like in other legions, they might be more inclined to be like, well, these guys are my friends, so I don't want to ally with your friends. I want to ally with my friends. Or these guys are my friends, so I want to go here. I want to go here, and I want to go here. You know what I mean? And in some cases, you're not able to kind of choose that, so you're kind of forced to end up fighting your friends, and it's really annoying. It's kind of a precarious situation you're kind of forced into. Uh, and like I said here, I definitely agree with this guy. I definitely agree with this guy. He was like saying like you don't know like everybody's like preference, and this is definitely true. Like just because everybody on Discord, or a majority, I won't even say everybody, a majority of people on Discord are in agreement that the event is unfavorable, doesn't mean that the majority of the player base finds it unfavorable. Unless I see like a vote kind of come out, I can't really say that 100% because like he said here earlier, most people speaking out prefer Island Raid, and that's because people are far more likely to speak out when they're unhappy with something. And I think this kind of goes across further than games, and it is just in every game, right? Like it just happens. People who are unhappy with something, maybe a product from the store, whatever, are more likely to speak out. Like if I like my mustard, I'm not going to say I like my mustard, but if I find like a caterpillar in my mustard, I'm going to be like, yo, I don't like caterpillars in my mustard. Please fix that issue. Thank you. I don't know why I just came up with that, like with that random like thought process, but like caterpillars and mustard 2024. Okay. Uh, yeah, I do like the safe zone stuff. I do like that you're able to farm more, like kind of it's easier to farm. I do like the general fact of mercenaries, right? Like I do actually like the mercenaries thing. I do think that there's like some pain to it where you have to go every 2 hours because that can get annoying. But in general, I don't hate the mercenaries thing. I actually like how it entices fights and you can kind of force fights and conflicts over it. That's one thing I really like. I do generally dislike the event though. Like I definitely think that there needs to be more fighting. There needs to be more of an incentive to kind of push fights on like one or the other side. Like like I said, if you do a placement thing instead of maybe just saying, okay, whoever captures the level sevens both get rewards. If you maybe make it to where it's like back to Island Raid, where each capture gives a certain amount of coins. For example, if each level 6 capture gives 2k coins, each level 7 capture gives 4k coins. The levels whatever, the thing in the middle of the map, level 8, right? If that capture gives 10k coins, people are going to be more incentivized to maybe fight for the sixes, and they're going to be more likely to go both sides of the map or something, and you're going to be more likely to clash with them in zones. And I think that this would be kind of fun, you know what I mean? I think that this would entice more fights, and also you'd be able to kind of get rid of factions with this because, you just be able to kind of decide who allies with who, and if maybe one legion is more disliked, you could have a 3v1 there, or like I said earlier, you can maybe make it just alliance based, and maybe you can maybe make the map not bigger, but you can kind of change how the zones are, and maybe you can spread them a little bit more throughout the map, and you can maybe make a few more zones. You can maybe just make it alliances versus alliances, and you have your own zones. I don't know. I feel like that might be better, and that might come across better with more people, and this might be more, like I said, incentivized into fighting. Right? People might just feel more like fighting when they have these options. Uh, Okay, well, I think that's about it. I don't really have much else to talk about. I mean, I kind of wanted to just get my thoughts across. I kind of wanted to just cover this, but I do appreciate you guys, honestly. This was a long video. I do appreciate you guys for watching as always, and I do hope you guys overall enjoyed my coverage of this, you know what I mean? So you guys have a great day or night, though, and I will see you guys in the next video. You guys give me your thoughts in the comment section, and yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.